number one reason why we are unhappy, despite the type of life that we are living, is because we lack intentionality in our lives. Absolutely.
When did you first realize that success wasn't really translating to fulfillment in your own life?
I completely ignored that. I thought it's normal. You can't have it all. I kept pushing until I got promoted. And that's only at that moment that I realized that I didn't know who I was. There was nothing meaningful in my life except my job. Those feelings that are here are almost unbearable, and I cannot keep living my life like that. And that's where I really realized the only reason why I had value before was because I was a CFO. I was that strong woman who became CFO early, traveled the world. That was the reason why I loved myself. I couldn't find any other.
So Lucie, you have access to a billboard. All the listeners pass this billboard on their way to work in the morning. What would your message on the billboard be?
Is the life that you're leading the one that you would like to live twice?
What's up, lovely people? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Coach Me If You Can podcast. I'm your host, Peter Charles Weller, and welcome to this very exclusive corner of chaos. I sat down with a former CFO of a pharmaceutical company turned performance strategist and helps business leaders around the world. I'm talking about Lucie Lachaux, founder of Changing Minds. That's the company, her coaching practice. Lucie developed an authentic performance framework, 3 life habits process, and she uses these to help leaders around the world, help them optimize the way they think, operate, and perform to multiply their wealth, impact, and fulfillment. She's one of the top personal development content creators in the UAE, and she's redefining what high performance means at the highest levels of success. And her story is about reinvention. She sent me an assessment, a mindset assessment she uses on all of her coachees, and we looked at the results together. And we don't just talk about mindset. She measures it with a scientific assessment. We walk through my results, and she put my mindset under the bloody microscope. She called out overthinking. She told me, you don't have efficient mental habits. Wham, that hit. Because if I've learned something reflecting now, pre-burnout, during burnout, after burnout, the number one thing was mental habits, my mental patterns, thinking patterns, not being able to shut off my mind and always chomping at the bit. The think tank is always on. And having someone pinpoint this in a mindset assessment, my jaw was dropped. I was gobsmacked for sure. We also spoke about how I interact with people. There are 2 approaches. She has an analogy she calls the paintbrush versus the hammer. Logical thinking, using logic and rationality to communicate. That's the hammer approach. And sometimes she challenges me, I could also use the paintbrush. So taking people on a journey, an inspiring story. How would you describe the sunset, the beautiful sunset, using rationality? Difficult, huh? Sometimes you need to use the paintbrush. And I loved hearing that, right? And it's something that spoke to me for sure. So she also said, I need a big vision for my life. I need to have a vision for my life, and I need to be very specific. So if I pursued a coaching trajectory with Lucie, it would be 8 sessions, 2 additional sessions with experts. 1 expert would be on creativity. I love that she involves other coaches in her coaching trajectory. 1 would be with creativity. And I said, are you saying I'm not creative? And she said, no. We'd use a creative expert to paint a painting of your life, a life vision, and being very specific. And the other expert would be mindfulness, tied into my mental thinking habits. And she actually challenged me a little bit to imagine building a bigger life, a more exciting life, not just work. And the sentence that stands out, would you live this life twice? Wow. So my jaw has been dropped. I think one of my most favorite sessions. So let's get into it.
Coach me if you can. Coach me if you can. Coach me if you can. Coach me if you can.
Lucie, it's so nice to welcome you to the show. This is Coach Me If You Can, a show where I see if I can improve my life. I'll remember the moment when I came across your profile. I saw former CFO turned coach. Wow. And wow, not just because you were a CFO, which is, of course, extremely cool, but I thought straight away, what's spoke to me was that it takes guts, because to make that switch and to kind of go in the unknown, that really spoke to me. So I'd love to unpack some of that today. So the expectation, Lucie, is right up here. So
Well, all of us, so that's a lot of pressure.
that's a lot of pressure. No, welcome to the show, Lucie. It's so nice to meet you.
Thank you so much, Peter. It's a pleasure to be here. Now I'm starting to be anxious because of just what you just said.
I thought, let's put the CFO under pressure, the former CFO. No, it's not going to work. Maybe to kick off, maybe you could explain to myself and the listeners what you do and why you do it.
So what I do is professional coaching for top leaders, and saying that is very broad. So I'm going to dive in a bit more into that. I don't do only life coaching or, any specific type of coaching. I have created my own type of coaching, which is called authentic performance coaching, which I have created based on my story. The story that you mentioned of being a former CFO and becoming a coach. And on that path of becoming a coach, I've discovered that the number one reason why we are unhappy, despite the type of life that we are living, is because we lack intentionality in our life. So authentic performance coaching has been created in order to help people to bring back that intentionality in their life, meaning understand themselves much more, understanding what is it that they like, what is it that they want. So I've built the whole process for people to work on that intentionality. And I work today exclusively with top leaders, people who, despite their career, despite their lifestyle, they feel like something is off. They feel like they want more. But for the first time, it's not more in terms of achievement, it's more in terms of meaning. So the short version is I add meaning to the life of people. That's the short version of what I do.
And that's also the why you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. My why is to help people to build a life that truly matters to them. That comes from my life in general. I've been surrounded with a lot of people who didn't, and I've seen the frustration and the lack of opportunities also. So that's really important for me to live my life in a way that matters to me, but also to help people do the same. Absolutely.
When did you first realize that success wasn't really translating to fulfillment in your own life?
I think it started when I moved to Ireland. So I am French. I used to live in France. And when I became CFO, I became CFO for a subsidiary of a pharmaceutical group in Ireland. And at the very beginning, I had this excitement of new country, new task, new project, new role, exceptional role at my age. And after maybe 6 months down the road, where things started to be a bit more settled down, maybe less learning, less growing, that's where I started to realize that this is not all I want. It's part of what I want. I like the drive that it gives me and the learning, but this is not, answering all of the other gaps that I had in my personal life.
And how did you go from that kind of feeling to acting on it?
I completely ignored that. I thought it's normal. You can't have it all. If you want to be successful, you have to sacrifice your relationship. So I just didn't listen to that, and I kept pushing until I got promoted to go to Dubai as a CFO within the same company. And I like to say, thankfully, what happened when I came here was that those feelings were there, but I didn't listen to them. However, when I came here, after a few months, we decided to hold the activity of the company here, and which meant that I needed to go back to another country. I had the choice between Boston and France. I refused it, and I resigned from that company. And that's only at that moment that I realized that I didn't know who I was. There was nothing meaningful in my life except my job. So it's not, I cannot take all the credit and say, yeah, I decided one day and I just jumped. That's not what happened. What happened is, first I had that moment where I resigned. Then I chose to go into another job. And after 3 months, I was like, no, now I see it. It's way too clear for me. Those feelings that are here are almost unbearable, and I cannot keep living my life like that. So I resigned from the second company. And that's where I really realized. But I needed a bit of a help, if I can say it this way. to get the first hit and to really realize that it wasn't the life that I wanted to live.
And how much of that is kind of expecting external things to make you fulfilled versus digging kind of deep and trying internal things?
If this podcast has made you laugh, think, or question your entire life plan while loading up the dishwasher or doing a diaper, do me a favor, please subscribe. Hit that follow button on Spotify. It's free and it helps me more than you know. And yes, it means the absolute world to me. Now, real talk. I don't just want listeners, I want a community. So I want feedback, ideas, or a coach you swear by. I want to hear from you. So either hit me up in the Spotify comments section or head to www.coachmeifyoucan.show and send me a message. I'll actually read them and I'll actually reply. And if you've never done a Wheel of Life assessment, drop me a note. I'll send you one for free. Once you get your results, you can choose the category and I will find you a coach for a free get to know you session. No catch, no weird funnel, no weird PDFs, just real conversations. I want to get people coached. So yeah, go to www.coachmeifyoucan.show, be nosy, say hi, back to the show.
And how much of that is kind of expecting external things to make you fulfilled versus digging kind of deep and trying internal things?
Yes, because, like it's not the way I've been either raised or even, I think it's not common to, no one taught us like you need to reassess, you need to introspect, who are you as a person. It's more like you're 18 years old, you have to choose the path, finance look cool, I'm getting there. And don't get me wrong, I liked finance, but it doesn't fulfill every part of your life. And you don't have to realize it early. You can keep going like this, but after a certain time, it depends for everyone, obviously. I think there's a lot of other areas that really matters to me that were not there. And so it was time for me to work on those too.
And so if you compare the Lucie from then to the Lucie from now, what are the big changes in terms of fulfillment or your feeling of happiness? Can you speak about that?
Yeah, of course. I'm much more fulfilled. I feel very aligned. But despite that, I think my self-esteem is much higher because, when you launch your coaching business, there's a lot of things that you will have to overcome. The rejection, the fact that you're a coach, so it's an industry that sometimes has a bad reputation. So you only have yourself, you have to be your best friend. You have to be sure that you have your own back. And so I had to create and develop that in me because for me, the only reason why I had value before was because I was a CFO. I was that strong woman who became CFO early, traveled the world. That was the reason why I loved myself. I couldn't find any other qualities in me. So I think that is the biggest shift. I was always someone who is excited to do any project because I love learning. I'm very curious. However, right now, I'm doing that in something that is really aligned. And I think that's really impacted my self-esteem and my confidence.
Interesting. You would assume that CFO is extremely confident, but kind of what the picture you're painting is that when you started in your own business, now I heard the cat, by the way.
I'm sorry.
no, it's good. I like it. It adds to the flavor. But so I'm picturing this confidence curve. So you would say even having your own business grew your confidence more than you thought was possible.
Yes. And I would say for me, it wasn't, I see two things, confidence and self-esteem. I always had the confidence that I could do something because I knew my skills and I didn't really doubt. Sometimes, of course, along the way on entrepreneurship, you're challenged on that, but still I truly believe that I could build something. However, it was more for me, my self-esteem. The way I look at myself, the image that I had of myself, that really was... Of course, at the beginning, when I decided to resign and I was no more a CFO, then it went down fully because I had no idea who I was. But slowly, with coaching, with work, and, starting rediscovering yourself, basically, really brought the self-esteem back up. And that really changed me, for sure. It brought a peace of mind. I think that's better to say that. It brought a certain peace of mind that I didn't have before.
And so a lot of this story you've kind of woven into your coaching because you went through such a pivotal change. You redeveloped yourself, you grew. And this story you said you use in your coaching with clients, with leaders.
Absolutely. Yes. I think, when you are in that space where on paper you have everything that 90% of people want, you don't really complain. First of all, you don't complain because you don't want to be vulnerable. You don't want to be seen as weak because everyone sees you as strong. But also you don't feel like anyone can truly understand. I faced a lot of time when I tried to open up. I faced a lot of conversation where people were saying to me, come on, you're living in Dubai, you're 29, you're a CFO, you live in front of the Burj Khalifa, sorry. So, you don't feel heard. And I think the primary reason why I do what I do is I want to create that space for people to say, yes, I don't feel good. I have the money, I have the title, but I feel like crap. And that's okay too. I don't think there is anything to be ashamed about this. And I know the pain. I know the pain when you sacrifice everything for something that you think is going to bring you happiness and you realize that it doesn't. I
have
know
to think
the
of
sadness.
the Coldplay song. I think it's called "Fix You."
Oh yeah,
I
beautiful.
got what I want, but not what I need.
That's exactly it. And when you are at that moment, we have to understand that what I'm talking about, most of the time, people experience that after 20 years of a career. So it's not like just a year and you made the wrong decision. It's a lifestyle that has been built on something that you thought at some point will bring you the happiness that you are looking for. And it's not. And that is extremely painful. So I wanted to be the person to talk about this problem because when I was facing those problems, I didn't see anyone really openly talking about it, saying like every time that you meet someone, you're judging them. I know it sounds terrible, but it's true. And I know people understand what I'm saying because you always think that you're more aware or you're better. It's not because you're a bad person, but it's just because of the way your mindset is wired. So I really wanted to talk about those challenges.
And you think in terms of culture, there'd be a place for that in an organization to be vulnerable, to talk about these things. But it sounds also like sometimes that's not the case. And you created your own space in your coaching business for those conversations to be had.
Absolutely. When it comes to corporates and businesses, I think the message that I want to send is your top leaders don't necessarily need to go through a leadership program or to learn more skills. Sometimes they just need to reconnect with themselves. They just need to be more at peace. So they are ready. They have the foundation to learn more. And that's my point of view. That's why also I work a lot on 101 more than corporate, because maybe, there is a bit of education on that topic to be done.
That's so interesting. And that's so contrary to a lot of what I hear. One always thinks in terms of external things, courses, development programs, boot camps, etc. But you're like, we can also dig deep with the individuals and see what happens then, and how that changes things.
Yeah, that's true. If someone struggles and if you want to teach someone communication, for example, if the person doesn't know how to manage their emotion or, to stop the triggers, anyway, they can learn about communication. It's not going to make a big difference. I'm not saying it's not useful, but I think the first step is more to understand yourself better and what's going on.
Would you say it's almost the foundation of the pyramid?
Yeah.
And that you can have all these boot camps, these external things, but if there are issues with the foundation, then the impact of the individuals may be limited, even if they do the boot camps and the leadership trainings and all of these things.
Yes,
so you kind of go to the deep level.
Oh, yeah, completely.
Okay.
Mostly when you go to the top leadership. Because at the beginning of your journey, maybe there are some challenges and some issues that you don't yet have, if I can say it this way. But mostly for top leaders, after 10 years plus, I would definitely first focus on a better understanding of who they are and how their minds work.
And just in terms of age, you mentioned you were quite young when you reached that position, and also when you realized that that does not equal, or that success in your life does not equal fulfillment. Do you mind walking us through that age aspect?
What do you mean by that exactly?
How old were you when you had that kind of realization in your life?
I was 29.
29, yeah.
29.
Because I remember you said individuals usually notice that later in life,
Yes.
when they've climbed the top rung, let's say, okay, I'm here now, but I'm miserable, or I'm unfulfilled, or I thought this would, give me something, or okay, so that's indeed a young age, and that's so cool that now you can help individuals navigate those topics. Okay. We have a section in the show called Fact or Fiction. This is basically where I throw some statements your way, and you can say if they're fact or fiction.
Okay.
And we've got a couple.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Embracing obstacles as opportunities is key to personal growth.
Fact. And I think it's very linked with growth mindset. We hear growth mindset a lot, but this is exactly the core of it. You have to be in a constant state of growth, which means that when there is an obstacle, you're not giving up. You keep going and you look for the lesson in that obstacle.
Okay. Overcoming fear of failure is essential for personal development.
I would say fact, but I would re-say it in a way. Overcoming fear, I prefer to say deal with the fear. Fear doesn't disappear. It's just how you
I like
learn to dance with it. We tend to think that fear at some point will disappear when we have the perfect plan, the perfect strategy. That is not true. It will always be there, but it's just a question of learning to deal with the fear and to do it anyway.
I love that, dancing with fear.
Yes.
What music would you be listening to then?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm always listening to depressing song. All my friends are telling me, Lucie, why are you listening to depressing song? So I don't really know, but definitely something more swingy.
Okay, cool. High achievers often struggle with imposter syndrome despite evident success.
Absolutely. And most of the time, even if you tell a high achiever, you've done that, and you give them compliment, they do not take it. That is a very big proof of lack of self-esteem.
Very big proof of lack of self-esteem.
Yeah. Most of the time, the roots of that is a lack of self-esteem. The more, at least in the client that I have, that I have worked with, and in what I've learned, the more success, the less self-esteem.
Wow.
I wouldn't say it's a 100%.
Resonates also with me, because if I get praise from something, I'm always kind of like, yeah, but I'm busy with the next thing, or that's only the one of the next steps, but I'm already
ahead.
okay, maybe we need to talk about that in the coaching session. Your environment shapes your mindset more than thoughts alone.
Your environment shapes your mindset. I want to say fiction. It's a very thin line. Great one. I want to say fiction because you can control. I mean, you can't control your thoughts, but you can manage them. So the thoughts are coming and you can manage them, which I think is definitely much more stronger than the environment.
And the environment, but its role in...
The environment, yes, it can play a role in your way of thinking, but if you have the ability to manage your thoughts already, I think it doesn't make any
back
difference.
to the foundation of the pyramid, kind of those thoughts go in the bottom level, environment comes later.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Trying to conform to everyone's expectations is a surefire way to lose yourself.
Absolutely fact. Destroying, actually. It's okay to want to conform to a certain way. However, I think when it comes to authenticity, we tend to think that it is, I say what I need to say and I don't care about other people. I don't think that is real authenticity. Authenticity is when you can be yourself in any type of environment. So for me, this is what is key. more than anything else. So don't let external expectation tell you what to do. However, there is always a place where you can, again, dance with that while being yourself and while, having a certain level of integrity. So completely fact, yeah.
I like this one. Our deepest fear isn't that we're inadequate, it's that we're powerful beyond measure. And just to give you a bit of context, it's a quote from a poem from Marianne Williamson, which is often attributed to Nelson Mandela as he used it in one of his speeches, but it's not from him, it's actually from a poem.
But it's a very much a fact, of course. I don't
Yeah?
think fear is because we are being young at all, it's just how we manage that.
Yeah, it speaks to me because I always compared my current state of maybe being unhappy with what if in a parallel universe, I'm this person who's so much more powerful, like my dreams. And that was almost the biggest fear for me, like that I'm missing out on life and that there's so much more. And for me, it was very much about the feeling of confidence. That's why that quote for me, played a big part in my life, I think.
It's very interesting. And also you said something that makes me feel of something else. I recently saw a big shift in someone's, when you approach things in life, thinking of what are the things that I need to do. I think if you can shift that with who he is, the person that I want to become, what type of person I want to become. And from that perspective, you can, I think, reflect much more and find out what you need to do more than when you just focus on the things that you need to do and the fear that might be holding you back there.
So you think I stumbled onto a very valuable quote?
Yeah, yes,
Me,
definitely.
then confidence is more predictive of success than competence in leadership and business.
Yeah, that's a fact. I would even add to that sometimes talent is not enough, but perseverance and enthusiasm. How do you say in enthusiasm?
Yeah. I'm very flexible with language. I speak 3, but I fumble all of them when I get tired. I speak a new language, so
you understood. I think
Yeah.
that is much more important anyway, and that the same competence only goes so far. If you don't have the mindset, if you're not sure about what you're doing, if you don't have the confidence, you can be the best, copywriter. If you never talk about it, if you never stand up for you and your idea, nothing is going to arise.
Where's mindset on this pyramid? I hope you like the kind of the picture of the pyramid. It's just something that came
I'm
to
trying
mind.
to follow you with the. I think mindset goes for me. It's funny that you talk about pyramid because in the authentic performance model that I wrote, it's not a pyramid, but now you make me think also. The first step is introspection, and so this is where that for me is key and roots. You need to understand who you are, what you want, and you need to introspect often, even when things are good. It's super important. The second one would be alignment, and so alignment is your ability to build a vision and to create that environment where you can finally be yourself. And the third one is growth, which is the mindset. So for me, the mindset comes just after. The first work is introspection. Of course, when you do some introspection, there are some thoughts that are going to come into your way, but it's more a learning about, your mind, I would say, more than a mindset work. The mindset work, such as self-command, for example, that can come afterward. So I would say it comes a bit after. It is mandatory, it's necessary, the mindset, but it's not the first step.
And so this introspection as the first step also allows you as a coach to look at the mind, as you say, of the individual, because you can't treat all customers the same way or all clients of yours the same way. So the first step is to first understand Peter Weller.
Absolutely. And I like to do that from the beginning because you have your own mindset and because you have your own blind spot. If we only have a conversation, I can only see what you will want me to see because you have your own mindset and your own way of, and your own stories, So what we want to do, and that's why I analyze the mindset of people from the beginning, I want to remove those stories and I want to see the hurt of the person and what's going on. And then after that, the work will be around you as a person, but this is really the hurt of what's happening in your mind.
Would you say you build a strategy based on that introspection piece that you have with a client? You build a tailored strategy for that client?
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe even together with the client, or definitely you for the client?
So there are two parts. Obviously,
Okay.
the client, when someone comes to me, they have their own objectives, and so we identify that. But doesn't matter the objective, we always go to the introspection phase, and the introspection phase will be designed based on the result that I get from the mindset assessment, because it tells me exactly what to start focusing on. Now, along the way, we are human, right? So maybe there is a day where you want to talk about something else. Maybe you want to bring something that appears while we have our coaching session. So what I do is extremely personalized and extremely flexible also. But the starting point is always based on the result, because we can also measure it and we can do it again at the end. So I really want to shape that.
So let's shape it together. So the next bit is the coaching challenge, Lucie. We've got about 50 minutes if we want to. Now, just for the audience, Lucie sent me a assessment. I was a bit nervous about this to see what comes out. Excuse me. So I've done that. So we have that. But now you also say you typically start with introspection. So regardless of that, this is the coaching challenge. I hand the reins over to you, and you can very much design our session that we have together.
Quick one from me. This episode is brought to you by Inner Buddies. Inner Buddies is a young modern company in the Netherlands. They're a spin-off from Maastricht University, and they do something rather specific and actually darn cool. So they study poop. They study the microbiome, they study the gut, and they do that through studying poop. So they studied my poo 5 times now over the last 3 years, and I must say I'm a complete convert. So since then I've lost 30 kilos, I've beaten hand eczema, and I'm actually probably, as lots of people around you might say, a lot less irritable than I was, which is probably like a public service. So go check out the boys and girls at Inner Buddies, www.innerbuddies.com, and have a look at one of their test kits. So they send one of these test kits home to you. You go to the toilet, you put some data in the toilet, if you know what I mean. You scoop some of the data off and you mail it to them. And 4 to 6 weeks later, you get a personalized dashboard. Now, the dashboard shows you exactly what's happening on the inside. It shows your microbiome, what bacteria are thriving, which ones have gone AWOL, and how you can use nutrition and supplements to sort things out. Now, through it, I pinpointed low levels of certain bacteria, good bacteria, lactobacillus. I'm lactose intolerant, lacto. I get it. They make a topic that is very scientific, incredibly easy to navigate for us mere non-scientific folk, and they make it fun. So it's a bit clever, it's a bit strange, and it works. If you've ever wondered why your energy's low, why your skin's flaring up, why you're irritable, or why your third coffee is just not hitting right and you're running off to the toilet the whole time, your gut might be trying to tell you something, and Inner Buddies helps you listen. Go check out the boys and girls at Inner Buddies, www.innerbuddies.com, and have a look at one of their test kits and use the code WellerGuts at checkout for a small discount. So, and by the way, we've just released an episode with COO of Inner Buddies, Crystal Creek. It's funny, it's fascinating, and slightly more comfortable than this ad is. So go have a listen, and to steal her words, poop it, scoop it, know it. Back to the show.
The mindset factor is the test that you have done, and this is the only test that can assess the level of mindset of someone. When I say level of mindset, it's just the detail of what is happening into your mind. Not only, as we said, it's a gain of time because I know directly where to start, but also it gives us a big clarity from start. Everything is scientifically validated. It has been done with a bunch of professionals, so it's not me. I'm not the creator of that test. However, it is scientifically validated. One of the first KPI that we have on the test is called the mindset evolution phase. There's no bad or good in that test, and I want to say that very loud. It's fine. Everywhere is where we are. That is not the question. However, in those mindset evolution phases, we have 5. People who are in 1 and 2 are usually people who need more therapy than a coaching. It means that they are paralyzed by problem and they are suffering from traumas. People who are in 3, 4, and 5 are people who have a potential. They just need to tweak their mindset in order to get to the to the use of their maximum potential.
This is so interesting, Lucie. So you use this as a starting point, and you can already put clients in kind of buckets for you as a coach.
Yes.
So coaches come to you, or clients come to you, and you have this assessment that they do, and it almost puts people into buckets where you can help them. Or you mentioned 1 and 2 potential therapy being, people might be paralyzed in their life, stuck in their life. So that would give you so many breadcrumbs on how to help the individual, how to maybe point them to another source. Maybe what you offer is not right for them. Maybe it is. But do you think that's how you go about this, or why you do what you do?
Yes,
so that
absolutely.
You can... Okay.
Yes, because the more accurate I am in my work, the bigger is the transformation. I don't want anyone to waste their time coming for me, and I don't want to waste my time if I cannot fix any problem. So knowing if someone needs therapy is very important, because that's not the same job at all. I'm not qualified as a psychologist. So anyone who I see would suffer from trauma or need a therapy, I would definitely recommend someone else. So from the beginning, I know, but you will see, I am sure 100% that when you will see your result and when I can get out of your result is quite mind-blowing. I have a lot of details, which is super interesting to start the coaching journey.
And am I phase
that.
4? Was that just an example?
No. So you are in phase 5. So I just want to explain what is phase 5. So basically that works like this. You will do 3, 4, 5. And when you are at 5, it means that the jump that you have to do is even bigger than anyone else. Being in phase 5 means that the environment that you are in has been mastered, kind of. For you, I know that it might not make you grow and learn anymore. You might feel a bit, oh, okay, that's where I am, but it's maybe a bit less excited than usual because you have overgrown that environment where you are. So what I usually recommend with people who are in phase 5, what I usually say, not recommend yet, is that your next step is going to be a big one. It's not going, for example, if you would be in phase 4, he would have told me that you know your potential, you're not using it to the maximum, and that frustrates you. In your case, that's not the case. You know you have the potential, you can do more, obviously, because we usually say you're playing it safe, meaning that you can do more, but you decide to not yet jump into that new environment. And when you will do that bold step, that big step, you will go down to 3. Because then it's a learning curve, right? Then this is where you're learning again, and 3, 4, 5, and it's going to grow like this. So 5 here in your situation, it means you have a big potential. It might say that you are playing it safe, but also it might mean that your next step is very big. And I'm going to dive in, obviously, into that.
Do you have the date of when we did the assessment?
2024.
I did it on Christmas Eve. You
Why
gave
not?
me a Christmas present, Lucie. Thank you very much.
But that is important to say that, yes, it was your mindset at that time. So if you have made big changes, if things did change for you, then you can see and react to that. Usually, I will ask people to do it kind of close to the date. But it's almost 2 months, so it's not that a big deal. Is that clear for that phase?
Bon.
Super. The second KPI that we have are the baseline of your mind. So this is how you are making decisions. That tells me a lot about you as a person. So on your graph, you can see that you have a line, and the first line, actually the longest one, is the pink one, which is the connection one. That tells me that you need to be in an environment where you are learning and growing constantly. If you are not learning and growing, you feel like dying.
This is okay. I mean, could be confirmation bias, but that speaks to me so much, because throughout my career, I have always been shifting when I've had this unexplained feeling of this ain't right for me. This ain't right for me. Similar to you, position in the past that an organization people would go to and typically stay forever, because it's almost like a diplomat role, tax-free. People flock to those kind of organizations. It was in European policing, and it didn't feel right to me. And I couldn't explain it. And I pulled the plug, and people said, are you mad? You know, people come to die here. They never leave these kind of organizations, and you're leaving for a completely different industry. Sorry, yeah, I'm giving you a bit of detail there, but
Of course, no, please do. It's important. And you know, in your word, you said a lot. It doesn't feel right, and that's what I wanted to say. The people who have that line connection, the first thing that happens in their mind before making a decision is, how do I feel? If I don't feel that this is something I like, I'll change. Compared to people who can be maybe very rational, they will just say, "Oh, that makes sense," then I'll do it, and I will see how I feel after. For you, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's first a feeling.
Yeah. And it was often also kind of almost the heat gets turned up because various positions I had that, and then I pulled the plug after typically I stayed, I would say, too long, because there is that pressure from the outside to you know, how's this going to look on your CV, etc. That did apply in the past. But often I would pull the plug. I'm like, nope, that's the feeling. And loads of people would say, like, are you mad? I had this multiple times in my career. The next step, so I just mentioned a European agency was right. The dream job for someone, not right for me. The next one was academia. Same thing. People thought, oh wow, freedom of thought. You can do what you want there. No, it was very different for me. And I think within 3 months, I pulled the plug. Actually got fired because But that's a funny story. Maybe we can pick that up at the end. And then after that happened again. I joined a different environment again, a different industry, tech, and I also didn't enjoy it. And now where I am, and that's since the date, I'm in an environment where I feel very connected to, through in terms of the feeling, but also in terms of the colleagues, the role, how I'm applying myself.
That's very interesting. So let's see.
Yeah.
What's going on. So again, I will give you some hypotheses about what I feel, because I see a lot of profile on daily basis. So I kind of have a tendency, but it is a conversation. And all of my question will be for me to understand better your position, so I can give you a good result from your report, so you can really have a good understanding. But for sure, you connect the dot very easily, which means that you have a very logical brain, right? Now, on the graph that I see that you see that the lines are all from different lengths. So that also means that you might not have done a lot of personal development, or if you did, you need to work on certain things. So it's a bit more aligned, meaning that there is a bit less overthinking for you, because I know from your test that there's a lot of overthinking. How do I know that? It's because the connection is first and the second is imagination. So two of the factors that are very much in the head, meaning before making a decision, not only you need to feel, but also you need to imagine yourself there. If you don't do that, you will never take action. And you can see on the third, the green line here, you take action only after that. And only after that, you start dealing with the fear. So that's very interesting, because you have a profile that has an enormous potential, yet right now you're overthinking. And that might be one of the reasons why you're not making a lot of decisions. But I'm going to dive in into that, don't worry. But do you feel so far I'm okay?
Yeah. I think this is amazing. No, it just speaks to me so much. I did a strength finder, and the number one strength that I have, according to the strength finder different test, is strategic thinking, right? And so it speaks again. It's a dominant theme, this thinking part. So that's why I was just like, wow.
You think a lot.
Yeah. It's a
definitely.
blessing and a curse, I'd say. Two sides to the coin or the sword.
The whole work will be how you can start to use all that thinking and to start putting it into action. You know, it's not about making decisions super fast, but it's about not holding yourself from achieving greater things and from, using your full potential just because of habit. We call that habit, I will show you after, of overthinking. Also, you can see on the graph, there is a last line here, the gray one, which is all about your narrative, which is your identity. That's very important to have a look at that. I've put it after that. So you see here, here, you see this graph, which is another graph that is on the report. You can see there is a cycle. The more that the dot is on the outside, the more this is activated. the more the dot is on the inside, the more it's inactivated, the lowest it is, right? And so on your test here, I've make it more clear because I added some little information for us to have a conversation. It's extremely interesting. We have the identity, which is the self-esteem, self-love. How do I see myself despite my achievements? Do I think I'm worth it, And in your case, it's not very low, but it's not very high neither, right? One of the reasons why that can happen, it's not always the case, but it is linked, and that's why it is on that graph. It might be because of some bad habits. Habits here are neural habits, meaning what is happening into your mind whenever you are starting to have negative emotion. I give you an example.
This is also the first time I'm thinking in terms of neural habits of thinking.
Yes.
So this is good. Usually one would habits, eating, running, etc. So, but you're talking about neural, so thought patterns.
Exactly. The pathway that your mind is taking whenever you have a certain emotions. And sometimes we're aware and we are aware of the result. Sometimes we're not aware at all. So let's say if you're feeling frustrated, some people will isolate themselves. That's was me, for example. I don't want to see anyone. I need to be on my own space. And some people would get angry at their wife. Some people would eat chocolate. It can be eating chocolate, but this is only the outcome. It's the fact that because you are lonely, because you're frustrated, you would eat chocolate. And what is very, very interesting to understand is that
Damn it, Lucie, now I'm thinking of chocolate the whole time.
I love chocolate, by the way. So
Yeah, me too. Thanks for that. Okay,
that
good.
can be something.
Tony
that comes-
Chocolonely for me is the... Anyway, let's go.
And yeah, so what is very interesting in this graph, it's because whenever you have a habit and whenever that habit is not serving you, it will directly damage your self-esteem and it will create some belief. For example, let's say I feel frustrated. I don't want to go to that networking event because I just don't want to see anybody. On the short term, you'll feel that's the right decision because I feel better. But on the long term, it is damaging your self-esteem, which could be improved by meeting other people at that time. That can, instead of maybe having that self-talk or of negativity for the whole night. But also it creates belief that if you don't go out, it's still working out for you because you're not dead, right? You're still alive. So you start having beliefs that are created that are not serving you. So this graph is here to show us if your habits are serving you or not. In your case, not much. And I think it's because from what I've seen for your test, I saw 2 other KPI here. I would say you're very hard on yourself. You're beating yourself up maybe a lot when something goes wrong. And you can tell me if it's wrong or not. It's just, again, an hypothesis compared to what I see. And I also see the social desirability level, which is kind of high. This is how much what people think will impact your decision. But it's not really, I said what people think, it's more how you're perceived from other people that really matters to you. As you said before, maybe I didn't jump yet because, everyone was like, what will people think about that?
No, I mean, this strikes again because self-demand level, I always say to myself, I don't use these words, I say I have very, very high standards, and to myself, the most high standards. And again, that's a blessing and a curse, right? And social desirability, I've always called it, it's so important that other people kind of understand me or see me kind of how I feel I am. So that's very important to me, definitely.
And you see, it's, as you said it's a blessing of a curse. I think it is a blessing to have a high standard because it means that you want things to go well and you want to deliver a certain quality of things. However, if it's not managed properly, yes, it becomes a curse, but it's not the high standard itself that is a curse. It's just the way you manage it. You can have high standard, be super ambitious, wanting to create something incredible, and at the same time being able to have empathy, have self-compassion when it comes to hard time, for example. These are not two things that are separated. But for sure, in your case, not only the fact that you are overthinking, but also the fact that those levels of self-demands and social desirability are high, it gives me a lot of understanding of the reason why you're not maybe jumping compared to what I said in previously. You are in phase 5. So those are just, different aspects that I usually dive in a bit. I can even do a full session only on that in the future.
So if one says overthinking, would you say perhaps sometimes I can achieve great results without as much thought as I'm putting into things?
Yes, definitely. Of
Definitely.
course. 100%. Yes. Now we need to understand the cause of your overthinking. Either it's because you have high standard and you want everything to be perfect, but you want everything to be too perfect, so you're wasting time in that. Either it's because your self-esteem is not that high, so you need a lot of reassurance before you actually do something. You need to make sure that you have the right plan, that everything is good, because you don't want people to think a certain way, or because you don't want to disappoint yourself, because you're hard on yourself. So yes, definitely overthinking is not, mostly if you want to have your own business, for example. But even if you don't, everyone, I can state Gary Vee, Alex Hormozy, all of these type of people, everyone says that one trait of successful people is your ability to pivot fast. And that's true, because you always have two solutions when things goes down. Either you overthink and you take time and you stay where you are, but you're staying where you are, where if you make a decision and move forward faster, you can start learning and then adjusting much more faster. So in terms of performance, it is much better. I'm not saying to not take the time to assess. This is absolutely important, but maybe you don't need that long process in order to make the decision. But the way you ask me the question, I understand it that for you, if there is not that long process, it might mean that it's not going to be perfect. So I hear maybe a bit of perfectionism. And in perfectionism, that comes into the habits. This is purely a mental habit. One of the research that has been done in positive intelligence is saying that we have saboteurs, and he recognized one saboteur, which is the perfectionism. So that can be that also. But let's see. I have my idea because I read your test.
Few questions. Like when you see
Go
this
ahead.
mix, for you as a coach, it's very practical because it gives you an angle how to dive deep with an individual, where to look, right? But if you just compare these kind of results across the board, are these typical results?
The fact that the overthinking and the low
Well,
self-esteem.
this kind of mixture, like this kind of a profile, is this typical?
Yes. Level 5 usually are people who, have achieved certain career milestone, usually in my practice. But usually this is also where the self-esteem is a bit at the lowest. Overthinking, not necessarily, but I've seen a lot of overthinking in the test, but definitely the work on identity is something that comes back a lot for people who have that strong mindset, because for you, it's very easy to achieve things. You're very logical, you learn very fast, so it's very easy for you to get the hit of feeling good whenever you jump into something new and learn something new. You can put a lot of effort in that, but it's much more uncomfortable for you to dive in and trying to understand who you are as a person.
Especially if my go-to strategy is to think.
Yes.
Right, so I'm in a new environment where I might be thriving, but if I'm trying to solve the chaos with thinking and developing perfect paths to ski down the mountain, okay.
And whenever you will try by yourself to start maybe introspecting or asking the question because it's not perfect, then you might give up very quickly, because you can't give a perfect answer. Sometimes you actually don't know. So that frustrates you. And so it's easier to put your mind into something that you can, grab and think about and get into that comfort zone of thinking and achieving in that way.
Okay.
So for example, I would see that someone like you, who would be my client, there is also a way of talking and asking the question. If I push you too much, for example, even if I know that pushing you is the solution because you need to jump to the next step, I would never come and push you, because I know that you might be very anxious, you might think a lot, and it's not suitable for someone like you. So that also tells me how to coach and my tone of voice and my style and the type of exercises that I can give you. Of course, you need to be, how do we say that, highly emotionally intelligent, because I need to read through your movement and from the way you talk and what you say, how to talk to you. But still, this test can help me a lot in that sense.
I love how you make sense of your clients, put them in buckets, design a strategy that works for that client, and then also know what are your angles of approach to help the individual or to guide the individual or to coach the individual.
For me, it was, when I got introduced to that test, for me, there was no question. I didn't hesitate. Maybe you might have other thoughts on that topic. For me, it was sure, because I knew that the people that I want to work with, they are people who need that personalized approach. Something that is broad and a one size fits all program wouldn't work, because typically, even for you, if I can be honest, I'm sure that you're very aware of a lot of things. And I'm sure that if you go into a program where you've seen something that you already saw before that is quite broad and not very specific, you're going to not be interested in it, because again, you need to learn and grow. So if you're not learning, you're not interested in that. Also, when I talk right now, I'm sure that you have 1,000 ideas, and I'm sure that you can see directly what is at the end, because you are very fast mentally. So I wouldn't take the risk to go into a coaching session with something that is very broad, knowing that it's not what is suitable. And most of my clients, when it comes to top performance, because that's my expertise, when it comes to high performance, you need personalized, data-driven coaching.
It sounds more and more like a Christmas present, Lucie. So I'm really happy that I did this, but I'm fascinated that you also want to do this because you want to apply yourself to an individual. And I assume then it's also easier, more likely to have an impact with an individual because you're tailoring something to an individual.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's a win-win situation. If someone comes into coaching, they want to change, they need to be committed. I want them to change. We both want the person to change. So let's put everything that we have together to make that change happen. And for me, there was no other way than approaching it on a personalized way. Of course, I have some exercises. I'm not reinventing the wheel, of coaching, but there are some exercises that you would resonate with, some other people wouldn't resonate with. So it's playing with that and playing in the coaching program on the approach and the way everything is built. Additionally, I don't know if it's relevant or not, but in my coaching program, every client gets access to 3 workshops with experts. So for you, for example, if you have a big a challenge with overthinking, not only our session will help, but you will have a one-on-one workshop with an expert in overthinking that will give you practical strategy that you can apply straight away. So overthinking is quickly not in the discussion anymore. I want you to quickly start working on this habit so we can focus on what truly matters. And what truly matters is what is coming after this slide.
Okay, let's go.
So the test, you remember the different baseline that I showed you? We can see the baseline here, pink, purple, green, and orange. They are split in different factors, right? And so in your test, which is here, and by the way, I'm adding this just for your referral because I think you will like it. By the way, the test that I receive, we have 2 graphs. We have the answers that you have answered and the real data. And what we call the real data, it's how we assess the social desirability level. It has been done with reverse psychology, so there's a lot of questions that came back in a different way. So we can also assess what is the really true answer. Because some people are very competitive. If you use that in a corporate, you want to write the right answer. So we triggered, we play with the mind, so we have the really core answer of what we think can be interesting. So for you, I told you from the beginning of this call, you need to be in an environment where you're learning and growing. Yet on this graph, it's not that high. So already, and again, right now I'm doing
You're talking environment or learning?
Learning and growing here.
Okay.
Already, I see that this person is not really learning and growing so far. At least I don't feel that they are learning and growing so far. Also, straight away from the test, we can see that one of the highest is the environment. Environment here can be the place you live. It can be your friend, your family are supporting you. It can be all of that, right? So I see that it's okay. It's not that high. For someone who is in phase 5, your test is quite small, if I can say that the cycle is quite small. So, but still, I see environment, learning, growing, those are the main one. Now, what is very interesting, and that is going to be my assumption, I see inspiration is one of the highest, right? But yet, I see that vision and purpose are very low. And so when I think of that, and when I see that, this is what comes to my mind straight away. This man is very inspired. He has an idea. He has an idea at the back of his mind that really make him inspired. However, not only the overthinking, but also the fact that he's scared, and maybe you have an idea in a field that you have never done anything before. I don't know. However, it might be an idea where you don't really feel confident in the sense that you don't really have the skills, or there's a lot of things to learn, or you don't feel that you have the skills. Maybe you do have them. But it looks like there is something in you that already know what you want to do. But my question for you is this one. The reason why you don't build a vision, is it because you're too scared to get there? Meaning that you know already where you want to go, but whenever you start thinking about it, no, it's impossible, I'm too scared, I don't have ABCD, it doesn't make sense, it doesn't create money. So then your mind doesn't allow you to create a vision for yourself? Or is it because you actually don't know what you want, which I don't believe. I think there is a bit of a lack of clarity, of course, but I don't believe this is the core. Is it because you have no idea at all where you want to go, that you're not making decision and that you're scared today?
It's a bit of both. So it's a bit of lack of clarity. I can say I've done a vision for the perfect day, but I don't think I've gone as far as designing a perfect life. Or when I say perfect, maybe that's not the right word, but
the perfectionism again is here.
Yeah. But I was thinking of the Lou Reed song, Perfect Day. So I've taken that and what would be my perfect day, so that when I have elements of a very good day, I actually recognize them. And today wasn't that bad. It's actually a part of what I want out of the perfect day. I haven't gone as far as designing that for my life, for my career.
And that is,
I know
think...
that...
Go ahead,
please.
excuse me. No, go ahead.
I know there's so much impact to be had and so much inspiring to be had also towards other people. I'm not sure if I found the right vehicle to kind of transport that in the right way. I also know, often I feel the rank that I'm in right now, say at a given company, is not the best for me. To amplify my impact, I might need to be in a different environment, more enabled environment.
So what would be that environment where you are using all your potential and you're making impact?
Where maybe I have a team around me who can work with me on creating that impact. So kind of that I could stay with some of my strengths, and I have support in the implementation of my ideas, of my thoughts.
What impact are we talking about? What is the impact that you'd like to have?
I mean, at a given company, it can be innovation. It can be a different way of doing. Like we said, I overthink a lot. I feel like I see the solution, what this company needs, extremely quick. And then navigating the weeds on how to do that, I'm convinced it's the right thing. But then you have to start implementing and working together with others, onboarding others into your vision. So in a sense, for a company, I have a very clear vision where I work, for instance. It's now what's stopping me of achieving that? Support and having these discussions where look, this is what I can be doing. do we want me to be doing that, or do you want me to be doing what I'm doing right now?
Do you see yourself staying working in your company for the next 2 years?
Yes.
Is it something that excites you?
Yes. The potential's there for sure. Potential for impact, potential for improvement, leaving a mark, changing things, being different. I get a lot of energy and inspiration from ideas, the power of ideas. And so I come in and already I see the solution. And I'm now actually, so since we took the test, I'm now in the position where, okay, we're convinced, let's test this in a controlled environment. Let's see if your ideas can change the way we do business. But I also need I need support to do that. So I need maybe my dream team that can help me implement this idea.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that is preventing you from building that vision? The fact that right now you don't have this dream team, and so it makes it a bit blurry to see where you can go?
Yes. And I have to kind of purposefully start small, something that I know I can achieve. And I'm very impatient. So I want to be fast forwarding to the big thing. And I've given you guys the route. Do we want to go fast, or do we want to do this very, very slowly? But people need to be convinced. So that's the process. That's kind of where I am right now. So a lot has happened since this test. It's interesting because I see myself now at a kind of a turning point.
So you see, when it comes to that test, it's not only in your career, it's in your life in general. So for example, if I tell you, where do you see yourself in 3 years? Do you have an idea of where you want within 3 years in your life in general?
Yeah, elements. Yeah, I wouldn't say a clearly defined picture.
So that's the start. That is really the start for any big change or anything. Because when I see your test, I know, and that I could say almost for sure, at least at the time that you took the test, that there's something else that is there. Something that, an idea that you have, or something that is maybe the reason why you do the podcast. I don't know. But there is something else that really makes you, your inspiration high. And that goes to what we were saying at the beginning. You have such a big potential. And I'm not saying that because I'm a nice person. It's just the test is showing it. You have such a big potential that whenever you light this little fire inside you, whenever you know for sure what you want and you're super excited, the drive, the result, everything will be multiplying by 10, right? So that's what I would focus on, and that's where I would dive in. First of all, what we said before, your self-esteem, increasing that, but secondly, working on that vision and understanding what is preventing you from building this vision. Not because I need team, I need this person to help me. The vision is something you have control on. You don't know what is going to happen in the future. Obviously, we don't know for sure. But if you have a vision and you're determined to go through that vision, you're going to get there. There's 99% chance that you're going to get there. So that's always the work, the starting point when it comes to mindset. And mostly in your case is to expand that vision. Because I see inspiration. The fact that purpose is low, I'm not surprised, because usually when I have profile of employees, that's kind of the case. But I know that if we dive into the inspiration and the vision, I will find some purpose here. I'm 100% sure. What is happening right now is that you don't believe that you can do it, and you're scared. And so those things, scared, I mean, it can be a lot of fears, right? I don't know what is in your mind, but it can be a lot of fears. But your ability, when fears is low, by the way, it's your ability to overcome the fear. So your ability to overcome the fear is not that high, because maybe that inspiration that you have could imply a big change. And that's, again, why you were in phase 5. It's because what's next for you is kind of big.
If I told you that I had a burnout 2 years ago and it took me a year to kind of deal with that, what happens when I mention that and you look at these results?
But I know that you will not put yourself again in a position where you have a lot of stress, or I don't know the root of your burnout, but for sure you want to avoid certain emotions. I understand. However, there are mindset techniques to help you to go through that. It's not because you're going to do something by yourself that you're going to have another burnout. You can do it. You have the strength to do it. And sometimes after a burnout, we have that feeling. First of all, it hits your self-esteem a lot, but we have also that feeling that we really don't want to go through that again. And so we are avoiding taking risk. We might avoid, exactly, action. And we can see also decision is quite low. So yeah, that's it. What happened if you stay in the situation like this where you don't start taking action and we don't see spikes here, which is important. Learning, growth, inspiration, vision, purpose for you. Here, learning, growth, spirituality, inspiration, vision, and purpose.
What about those?
Those are super important to you. They are part of your baseline. So we need and want to see that going up. If that doesn't happen, you might start to feel very bored. You might start feeling you're the most clever person in the room. No one understands you. It's not moving forward. You're bored. You don't want to do that anymore. And you might take the test again and be in phase 4 this time, which is absolutely not what we want. What we want is take a bold step, go for what you want, build a vision, and the next time you take the test, you're in 3. But because you are in a completely new environment and it's all spiky everywhere, because you're growing, you're learning, you're experiencing. There's a bit of uncomfortability, if I can say uncomfort. Sorry, but that's what for someone like you. That's why we wanna see. Now, there's a lot of things that I need to know about you. There's your human needs, your values, and everything in order for me to truly guide you and help you to understand what you need. Because I'm not going to tell you what you need, but what I know from your mindset and from your test is that somehow now you know that you're not at your maximum. I think it's kind of comfortable maybe, and it's safe, but you know that you're not at your maximum, and there's something in your mind that you're not exploring. I just want to explore it, with you. And once you have explored that, then you can start making decisions accordingly and more while being more aware. That's my point.
Okay.
Does that resonate?
Yep.
So this is the test. The test is done here, so you can also ask me question if you want, or I don't know if there is anything else that you wanna know. When it comes to spirituality, I can say that because your test is showing that we're not talking necessarily about gods. We also talk about just the fact that there is a more important force somehow. So you don't believe in that at all. But that's also the reason why you're beating yourself up so much. I'm explaining that. Some people, when something bad happens, despite the fact that they have worked for it, they will say, you know what, it's fine. It didn't happen. It was meant to not happen. It doesn't mean they don't suffer from it and they're not disappointed, but they stop beating themselves up because they accept the fact that maybe that wasn't for me, or I wasn't lucky that time. This is the speech of someone who has a bit of spirituality in the sense of the test, right? For you, if that didn't work out, it's because of you. Maybe also, this beating yourself up might be linked with your burnout. But if something doesn't work out, what did I not do right? What did I miss? And those questions are important, but they also, in your case, put a lot of weight on your shoulder. You are beating yourself up a lot, I guess. That's my assumption again. Let me know if that resonates with you or not.
Yeah, it resonates for sure. And I think in terms of spirituality, I define myself by what I'm not, as opposed to knowing what I am, kind of thing, when it comes to spirituality. But also, the comes back to the high standards, as well.
And it's funny because I see in you a bit of like rational profile, like a very practical person. Like you do only believe what you see. And that, again, that is a trait that is good, because rationality, I always say it's like a tool, like a hammer. So sometimes you need to use the hammer, but sometimes you need to use a how do we call that?
Paintbrush, paintbrush.
A paintbrush, yeah. Sometimes you need to use a paintbrush, right? And also, something that I heard that I think can maybe resonate or not. The reason why the sunset is so beautiful is not because it makes sense. It's not because it's the exact color of yellow with blue that create this. It's just because it creates something beautiful. That's an emotion that it creates to us. So in that case, rationality cannot be used, right? So that's the same in life. Rationality is a very, very good tool to have, mostly when it comes to make decision, make good, right decision, assessing, strategic thinking, as you said. But in certain cases, you need this paintbrush just for you. I'm not even talking with your relationship, which obviously are also impacted by that. But for you, it's important to use this paintbrush sometimes and to give you a bit more credit, a bit more self-compassion, so you can move forward faster. The goal, again, in everything that I say is for you to perform at your peak. And for me, performing at your peak means you achieve what you want and you're happy about it. That's very important. It's excellence, meaning 360, the success in everything. For you to get there, sometimes you will need to have this paintbrush.
Can you explain the paintbrush again to me and the applicability in my life?
Yes.
I love the analogy. I don't just quite... So how can I use it?
So it's just like, I will take with relationship, because I think it might be also something that happens. So sometimes someone comes to you and they are tired, frustrated. Let's say someone's crying and, they've been complaining to you many, many times, and you told them, this is the answer. It makes sense. I mean, it's A, B, C, D. Why don't you understand? So your speech to people would be, I say you, but I don't know. I'm giving an example. Huh?
Yeah.
The speech can be, I told you many times, you will do A, B, C, D. That's easy. Like, why don't you understand? Even in corporate, why doesn't he understand this person? It's because at that moment, you're using the hammer. You're using rationality. A plus B equals C. That makes sense. 1 plus 1 equals 2. But life and us human, sometimes it doesn't make sense for us rationality, because there's a lot of emotion first. So whenever you start taking this paintbrush and saying, why didn't you understand what I said? What are you feeling right now? Forget about the logical part of things, What are you feeling? What are the things that are preventing this person from understanding what I'm saying? That's an approach, what I call the paintbrush, which is more emotionally oriented and which can definitely solve conflict, but also the same applies to yourself.
Interesting. I love it. So many cases popped up at work, but also in my private life of, I approach things often kind of logically, but it's one thing knowing it. It's how do you sell it to another person? Or sell it is also the wrong word, but you see, and that's where the growth mindset comes into play. Mm-hmm.
Your solution, even if it does make sense to you, is not always a solution for other people. Why? Because either they're not ready, either they're not emotionally there, either that's not something that suits them. And so that's adding that element of paintbrush, that element that not everything is super logical. And anyway, if you want someone to follow your strategy, they need to feel heard and seen. So by telling them this is what you need to do, they don't feel heard and seen, mostly if they go through a difficult moment. So the first, in terms of strategy, if you really want to convince someone and someone to follow you, it's not about giving them the strategy. It's first about making them feel and seen so they can finally apply your strategy. Someone is more eager to listen to you if you come and tell them, how are you today? What happened? Like, tell me, I want to understand. And then you tell them after all of that, I've been thinking, maybe you should try that. That could be nice. Boom, it's done. Instead of coming, it's easy. Look, you do that. I don't understand why you don't understand. That is a different approach. I'm using it. I'm making it mean on purpose. That's not, of course, always the case, but those are the type of changes that we can see in relationship when we adapt the paintbrush strategy.
Yeah, but I love it. I'm understanding the paintbrush more, for sure. And I wonder how that impacts decision-making and those kind of things. And also the dream team that we mentioned, I feel like I need to onboard people to my my idea of the project, so Yeah.
Having having an idea and a vision is great. It's all about how you transmit that.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of learning to be had there, which I'm excited about now. But yeah, I kind of buy in that there's definitely ways I can grow there for sure. I noticed that because it feels like an uphill battle sometimes, and my go-to is then to think more and think like what angle can I try, and let's try a different angle, right? But yeah, I think I'm maybe using tools instead of a paintbrush.
Yeah. And you see, right now we're talking about leadership, building a vision and helping people, taking people, having people on board with your vision. But we're not talking about what skills, how to communicate. I'm talking about how you as a person, can you evolve and change your own patterns so you can do that both in your life and in your professional life. And that's the core of leadership.
If we'd have to prioritize now for Peter Charles, like what parts of the pizza should I, the colorful pizza, what part of the colorful pizza should I tuck into first to get the maximum kind of vision?
Vision. I would start with vision, overthinking, and self-esteem. Those are the three things I would tackle more, because building a vision for you will be a bit challenging because of your saboteurs, I think, because it has to be perfect, maybe because you will overthink at that time. So it's always like this, in mindset, there's two ways. Either you expand your vision, either you expand your identity. For you, I would say expand your vision first and see what comes after that. But saying expand your vision is really broad. There's obviously a path, not only conversation, but exercises of introspection so you can understand yourself better. The more you know yourself, the more you will be able to build a vision. Someone told me vision is not about what's next, it's what's in. And that is true. That's what's in you, because the inspiration is super high. And you are in a great environment to do that right now. So I would definitely go with vision.
So how would you build a kind of a coaching plan for Peter? We just mentioned the priority pizza slices of my life, basically. You mentioned self-esteem. You mentioned overthinking. You mentioned vision.
Yeah.
How would you kind of go about that now if you would build a plan for me?
So for me, I would start with introspection. The plan always varies according to introspection.
So we haven't done it in a logical order. Typically, we would have done the introspection first, and then maybe an assessment like this would have come.
No. The assessment is always there at the beginning, like that.
Okay.
Then we will have another session together based on your result, where you can we'll do an exercise which is called the Wheel of Life. Very simple exercise where we can assess different parts of your life. Again, me keeping in mind your profile, so I know what question to ask you to see the gaps. When I have all of that, I ask you what are your objectives now in that program. So you give me your objectives still. And then we'll start having a first session together, which will be introspection. So on this introspection session, I might give you a few exercises before we dive in the session. I would give you maybe your human needs I think are important for you. And I might ask you if you feel that you are your authentic self in every area of yourself. I would ask you who you want to become. I'm making it broad now, but I want you to get a bit of what I would say. Who you want to become, I would explore that. And I will start from the beginning. While we do the introspection together, I will still start to make you visualize different little things, but to start your mind to go to places that you've never been before. So that's what I would do. That would take maybe, I would say, 4 to 5 sessions in order to get a good grips. And from in those 4 to 5 sessions, maybe 3 to 4, I would say, in those ones, I will understand other things about you. Because this is a test, obviously, but we need a conversation. So I will see how strong is your overthinking, what are your saboteurs. As I said, what is your human needs? Maybe we'll talk about values, different identities, things like this that will really help me to guide you into the second phase, which will be alignment. So, which is, okay, now we know, we understood why you want. We know you're scared. We know that you don't feel that you can do it, but we know. So now that we know, let's build a crazy plan something that feels impossible right now. So I expand it to the maximum with you on purpose because I know you will be uncomfortable in that. And while you do that, then slowly we get back into a practical way of doing it on a smaller scale, seeing how you feel about it, starting taking action. And then it's all about you starting to take action and coming to me saying, this is happening, I'm stuck. And this is where the mindset work starts. Because mindset work can only start when you take action. At least it's not really true what I'm saying, but most of the time, the mindset work starts when you take action. And so I like to apply mindset work when you start doing small, tiny action, because maybe you'll tell me, I don't know, Lucie, I will define this next week before I come to see you. And then you come to me, but I didn't find exactly, so I didn't do it because for me, it wasn't perfect or whatever comes. That's, still you're trying to do something. And that's where we assess the real roadblock that you have in your mind while taking action. So that would be very much what I would do. And in terms of experts, I need a bit more information about you, but definitely I would send you to the creativity expert that I have, Giovanni, amazing person, good for vision. I would send you to him.
Does he do podcast episodes as well?
Giovanni? No.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't, but he's a very creative person, and he can really help you to get your mind to places that you didn't know before, or to reflect in a certain way. So I would bring Giovanni.
But are you doing that because you think I'm not very creative, or because you think I'm very creative and can be more creative?
I'm doing that because I think there is something holding you back from building a vision, and the creativity can always help you to expand that. I don't think it's because you're not creative. I don't know. I think it's because you're scared of certain things. So when you're in the creativity mode, you don't think about the fear. You're just, in that space. You allow yourself to dream for a minute. That's what I want to see. I want to see, what does it look like, your dream? What is it? Just for a minute. I just want you, I want this information to go to your mind just for a minute. 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe. And that's it. Because that is putting your subconscious in a place that it doesn't want to be. But it can give you a lot of information. So I would do that. Maybe, I don't know, I need to know you a bit more. Usually the expert comes to me after a few sessions, but maybe mindfulness, one in mindfulness, and maybe goal setting then. Someone in goal setting. Leo.
Why
Leo
mindfulness? Why mindfulness? Because of the overthinking and the lots of, or why mindfulness?
Mindfulness, because when you do mindfulness, your mind is producing what we call theta brain waves. Those brain waves are helping you to get more close to your subconscious. And so to change the subconscious mind, we need to create those theta brain waves. It doesn't work like all of a sudden you will know, but still there will be some sign. And I feel for you that you're a lot in your head, but I want you to be more in your body, in your heart, in order to help you to start being able to visualize for your life more than just your career.
I'm inspired. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
Did I pass the test?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the wrong level I was expecting. It was but only because I love the way you use these tests and you build tailored strategies. And already for me, we had kind of the breadcrumbs of how something like that could take place. So maybe we reflect on the coaching session together a little bit. I'd say we'd end the coaching session there. So we went, you sent me a assessment. I did that, and you were actually really happy with the results because it spoke kind of clearly in terms of these interventions, let's say, could benefit him very, very much.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then we went through the results, and so much of them resonated so much. I immediately had, that explains that, or that at work, or that conflict at work that I had. I definitely used a hammer there, maybe a really big one, and I should have used a paintbrush. You know, what the heck is this paintbrush she's talking about? We have to demystify the paintbrush. And we did that as well. And how would you reflect about the session?
I would also add something, that is important to see, is that your mindset is going to be the mindset of your team. So that's very important to understand that as a leader. I've seen that in many companies. We assess the leader's mindset and also the mindset of the team, and there are a lot of similarities. So meaning the way you approach things are going to be the way that people approach things in your company too. So again, it's not about what do I need to do.
Why do you say that?
Because we've assessed the mindset of a leader and the mindset of the team, and they are quite the same. It's incredible to see that what is the impact of the leader on their team members in terms of mindset. So they will really absorb a lot of things from you, from the way you're doing this. And so that's why it is important to understand that responsibility, but also, again, to ask yourself, instead of what are the things that I need to do, asking who is the person that I want to become? And same thing, what is the type of team that I want to have? And when you have those answers, then you can assess if you feel like you're living your life according to the person that you want to become, and if you feel that you're leading a team according to the team that you want them to become. And I think, at least for my transition, that was something that was necessary. When I was looking at myself in the mirror and I asked myself, who do I want to become? I didn't want to become someone who complains every day about my job and not do anything about it. Because I have a lot of integrity in my life. That was something for me was very important. So here I was telling, because I used to be a coach also, but I never know. But here I was saying to people and my friends, you need to live the life that you want. You need to fight for your idea. I had that personality from my young age. And here I was living a life of a person that I wouldn't even be inspired by. And that made me reflect on my kid. Am I the woman that I want my future kid to look at? Are those the values that I want to show them? And when you ask yourself those questions from that point of view, it's not about, oh my God, what I need to do, what is right, what is wrong. It's like, this person that I want to be is acting like this and this, so I know what I need to do. And so I like this shift. I think it's very powerful. And if you can start thinking about this with that perspective, I think you will already have a lot of answers. And I think when I explain it to you, you already got a bit of answer. Right? Am I correct?
Right. Absolutely. No, for me, it was very valuable. And I like how we also now prioritized the kind of order one could go about my development, my coaching. It's quite clear to me now. Let's go to the parting challenge. So typically I say, so Lucie, you have access to a billboard. All the listeners pass this billboard on their way to work in the morning. What would your message on the billboard be? Now you can answer that, but you can also maybe make a billboard for Peter Charles. So maybe let's start with Peter Charles. So what would be my billboard? If you Lucie Lachaux, could have a billboard that I pass on my way to work every day, what would you have the message? What would be your message for me?
Or it would be a question.
Oh, good.
It would be, what is your dream? That's what I would say for you.
Okay.
But it's good to remind yourself every day that you can have one. And so what would it be? Specific, huh? Remember that.
Okay.
Important.
And maybe also a separate billboard on the other side of the road that the listeners pass. Maybe some people who are unfulfilled. What would your billboard be for them?
I would also ask a question like, maybe, is the life that you're leading the one that you would like to live twice?
I love it. Yeah, that's
That's
good.
good English.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, okay. Because I was thinking, I don't think it's exactly how I heard it the first time that I heard it, but yes, is the life you're leading the one that you'd like to live twice? If you want something simpler, I would say, when is the last time you've been excited?
And going back, that's one of the signals. If it isn't, that's a big signal, right?
Well, my rule is if you stay more than 5 consecutive days feeling exhausted, tired, not liking your life, being in a bad mood, it's because you need to have a big change. That's my rule. Yeah, there's ups and downs. There's days where it's just bad, right? But if it lasts more than 5 days, you need to change something.
What's one simple action listeners can take today to shift their mindset?
Instead of asking what are the right things to do, ask who do I want to become? Who do I want to become?
Lucie Lachaux, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. My kind of expectation was already high, but it's gone way beyond that. Thanks for sharing your world with myself and the listeners. I definitely learned a lot about how you approach coaching and the value you bring to your clients. And I also saw firsthand by being a guinea pig, some of the value that can be had in my life. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Peter, for having me. It was lovely to share all of this with you. And I'm glad that I have expected your very high expectations. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure.